Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Everything is Bad New Fangled Motion Picture Show.
Greetings, one and all, and welcome to another episode of the Newfangled Motion Picture Show. This week, we're here to talk about Quentin Tarantino's most recent love letter to cinema, which is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yep.
I am your host, Niall.
And I'm Nolan.
And we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of this movie, and then giving you a big ol' spoiler warning and going more in-depth into it after that. Not that there's a whole lot of story.
But there is some major spoiler at the end.
Yeah, there's like one major spoiler at the end, but it's like, this movie...
It's a spoiler, but knowing Tarantino the way I do, I wasn't surprised.
Right, I'm the same way. But I mean, otherwise, there's nothing to spoil because there's like hardly any story here.
This movie feels to me like an excuse to like just show off his favorite things that he remembers from growing up in the late 60s, early 70s in Los Angeles. And so
film the bottom of people's feet.
Yeah, well, it's Tarantino.
Yep.
So, of course, there's feet in it. But it's just like, here's a bunch of like little vignettes that are loosely related, just basically to show off, you know, his just things that he's nostalgic for.
Yeah. It's an excuse to show like old school Taco Bell and like Wiener Schnitzel.
Well, that was
like,
the first Taco Bell.
Right. And showcase like some of the famous landmarks in LA and Hollywood from the late 60s. But this movie's a whole bunch of scenes that are themselves pretty much all entertaining to watch, with some really incredible acting, particularly on the part of Leonardo DiCaprio. And but there's just nothing happens.
Right. So basically, the movie follows three people, right? So you got Leonardo DiCaprio's character, Rick Dalton, and he was a cowboy actor in the 50s, playing TV cowboys, and his career's kind of on the going down, and he's just getting by doing like guest appearances on like crime dramas and shooting pilots.
Yep.
That never get picked up. And then it follows Brad Pitt's character Cliff, who's DiCaprio stuntman
and best friend
and handyman and driver and everything. So it follows him, and then to a lesser extent it follows Margot Robbie, who's playing Sharon Tate, who was a real person. There's quite a few not real people, like the other two were not real people, but Sharon Tate was a real actress, and if you don't know who she was married to Roman Polanski, and she was murdered by followers of Charles Manson.
Yep. On
one hot August night in 1969. And so Rick, Leo's character, lives next door to the Polanskis. And so they kind of like, they see them coming and going. She's, she pops up. It cuts to her doing whatever she's doing every once in a while, but it's never really much. It mostly focuses on Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio and their characters and what they're doing with their at that time. And then there's like things are interwoven with. I mean, if you know the history, you know. This movie's got to culminate in that night when Sharon Tate was murdered.
Yeah. And
they do have some brief like run-ins with the Manson family and all that. But there's not a lot of actual plot until the third act, when it all happens at once. And near the end of the movie, and otherwise it's just sort of these like little vignettes, just here's what's going on at this moment, and this moment, and this moment.
Yeah, and
they're all they're entertaining. They're really well acted. They're on their own. A lot of them could just stand alone on their own for like what you're watching as a little piece of entertainment.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but like there's not much plot until the end.
Yeah. Well, and like
I did enjoy the movie more than The Hateful Eight.
the Hateful Eight, I did like the Hateful Eight, but to me it felt like, it was another one room play.
Yeah.
Like
this was definitely more expansive.
Right, like Reservoir Dogs is the other like one room play that Tarantino is known for. And I think he does a good job at just having a bunch of interesting characters in one place like that. And to me, Hateful Eight was a really entertaining movie, but I have no desire to see it again. This movie I could watch again.
Yeah, I could. And the movie was like an hour or 2 hours and 40 something minutes, something like that.
It's a long one.
It didn't feel that long.
No, it didn't.
To me. So I was definitely being entertained the whole time.
2 hours and 41 minutes.
I say there was no plot, but I was still entertained the whole time. It didn't feel that long to me.
Right.
So I was having a good time watching it, and like this is like some of the best work from DiCaprio. And
yeah, because Leonardo DiCaprio is playing this actor whose career's on the downward slope, who's like throughout the movie, that actor character is playing other characters in various things. And so Leo's going from being Rick Dalton to being Rick Dalton playing these other characters and flubbing lines and the stuff that happens like in between that and things like that. And yeah, it was some really incredible work on DiCaprio's part.
Yeah, it was all really good.
And Brad Pitt was also really good. I mean, I would say the quality of acting from Brad Pitt was just as good as DiCaprio. He just didn't have as intricate of a character.
Yeah, he wasn't as interesting a character. He was a cool character though. I like following him around.
Yeah.
Because it's just all these three stories are kind of interwoven, and you cut between them, and they DiCaprio and Pitt have a lot of scenes together, but most of their scenes are separate. And then Margot Robbie, like, very little together with the others. She's just sort of like almost this sole separate story going along parallel to theirs, which are much more interwoven.
Basically, all of Margot Robbie's scenes are to remind you throughout the movie that Sharon Tate exists.
Yeah,
is basically it, because she does whole lot of nothing.
It keeps it in the back of your mind that she's gonna get murdered by the Manson followers.
Yeah, which I mean that happened in real life,
right?
So
yeah, that's not a spoiler. It's gonna happen. And so every time they cut back to her, and then there'll be like maybe some narration about like other people, because there was her and then 4 guests in her house that night, and so it cuts to like her like hanging out with them to remind you like, okay, these people are gonna die.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is like, how does that intersect with this other story of these two guys,
these two completely fictional people?
Yeah, these two completely fictional characters that have this bromance.
Yeah, it's a pretty entertaining bromance.
They're best friends, but one technically works for the other.
Yeah,
he gets paid to be his driver and handyman and all that, and in exchange he gets to house sit for him in the Hollywood Hills, and I assume he gets a regular paycheck. They mentioned that at some point.
Yeah,
he gets paid to hang around and do that stuff for him. But yeah, and I think a big part of the entertainment for a certain group of people is the nostalgia factor. Like, our parents went to see this with us, and they were the whole time talking about like, oh, I remember that restaurant, or I remember going to that place, or whatever, because they lived in LA at around that time, and so they knew these places, and they were talking about like, oh, I remember that place, I remember going there, I remember eating at that restaurant, or I remember when that building was still there.
Yeah, or dad was like, oh, that's that theater on whatever street and whatever.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
And so I think for people who are old enough to remember, the late '60s and early '70s of Los Angeles, there's a certain nostalgia factor there that might add to the movie.
Yeah. But I mean, otherwise, it's just a bunch of incredibly skilled actors. I mean, it's a Quentin Tarantino movie, so you know that the roster is going to be stacked.
Yeah, people want to be in his movies.
And it is a very stacked cast.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
A lot of really big talent here.
Some up and comers too.
And Dakota Fanning.
You don't like Dakota Fanning?
Dakota's fine.
I remember her as a child actor, and I was like, she's going places when she was a child actor.
Yeah. I have nothing against Dakota Fanning.
This was Luke Perry's last film.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, he's in this.
Good.
He passed just like a few weeks after they quit filming, after they wrapped filming on it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, Margot Robbie, Leo,
Al Pacino,
Brad Pitt.
This guy that played Charles Manson, he's playing Charles Manson some Netflix show too.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell's in there.
Damian Lewis.
Yeah.
I like Damian Lewis.
Steve McQueen.
As Steve McQueen. And they managed a pretty good likeness to Steve McQueen after they got him in the right hair and makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean it's
a big cast.
A big cast. You know, so but yeah, I mean I'd recommend going to see it. You know, it's especially right now, it's nice, like 3 hours in air conditioning.
If you live where we are, you'll appreciate that.
It was 110 degrees today.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I think they said the high was 111. Will be 111 today.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
So
not a record, but it's still really hot.
So yeah, I was getting to spend 3 hours in air conditioning. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So go check it out. Like I said, without spoiling anything, we basically covered the first 70% of this movie.
Yeah. Basically, all the plot doesn't go anywhere of any significance until the third act.
Yep.
And it all just kind of happens at once.
Yep. And then, so speaking on that, we're pretty much done?
I think we're done. I recommend this movie. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it didn't feel like 2 hours and 41 minutes to me.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino's a weirdo. He makes a lot of accessible level art house stuff, and he has not made a single bad movie. He's made several movies, or at least a few movies that I saw and enjoyed, but don't care to see again. Like Hateful Eight was one of them. Like, I enjoyed that movie, but when you know the way that ends, you know, it sort of ruins the rewatchability of it. You know, I've been a fan of Reservoir Dogs. I've long held that Reservoir Dogs is the best Tarantino movie, and that was his first one, and is in fact a far superior movie to Pulp Fiction. But anyway, and yeah, his weirdo art houseness really comes across in this one at certain points. I mean, you could tell by watching this that he really likes Roman Polanski, which he's talked about in interviews and stuff. Like, he hero worships Roman Polanski. Also, it's Tarantino, so it's got every excuse to show Margot Robbie's feet.
Yeah.
In this.
Also, he apparently likes spaghetti westerns because there's a lot of reference to those.
Oh yeah, well, and we knew that to be the case. Just look at Django.
Yeah, that's true.
Or Django Unchained, rather. But so yeah. So spoiler warning.
Yep, spoiler warning right there.
So, Sharon Tate, who did not die.
Yeah. So that's the big spoiler: is they subvert history, much like in Inglourious Bastards, where they kill Hitler in a movie theater.
Yeah, so
they
in this the Manson children,
the Manson family that they show up to kill. They show up to kill Sharon Tate, and they have they show up in this car with with a bad muffler. So Rick Dalton comes running out of his house next door and starts like chewing him out and it's the middle of the night, driving up in this.
I mean, he's in his right to be chewing them out. He might have been a little heavy with it.
He was drunk and he was drinking from a whole like pitcher of margarita.
Yeah, it was like just the whole blender pitcher,
like full
of margarita.
Anyway, so they decide like, hey, that was Rick Dalton. Let's go kill him. I mean, they're still gonna kill Sharon Tate, but we're gonna start with him.
Yeah.
So they go into his house where Brad Pitt is, and he's got this Rottweiler. He's got trained.
Was it a Rottweiler? I thought it was a pit bull.
I thought it was a Rottweiler. Anyway, he's got this big mean dog that he's got trained, and he sicks the dog on them and beats the shit out of the rest of them, except for one. He goes charging out the back door.
After being mauled by the dog.
After being mauled by the dog, she goes charging out the back door and
crashes through the window.
Rick Dalton, Leo, he has no idea this is going on. He's in the back, like floating on a pool lounger with headphones on. And so she comes, she freaks him out when she comes charging, falls into the pool. So he goes into his shed and he has a flamethrower, which he kept from a movie. He did this movie where he kills some Nazis with a flamethrower, and he kept the thing. And so he torches her with the flamethrower. And so they're all dead at the end there. They managed to kill the followers of Charles Manson who were gonna go kill Sharon Tate, and they didn't. And
that's the story. End. That's the story of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's where all the story happened, right there. There were some things from earlier on in the movie that were set up for that, early on in the movie we see that Brad Pitt is training this dog, very strictly training the dog. So we know that, that he can stick the dog on them and things. And then they set up that Leo did this movie with this flamethrower. Did he mention that he kept the thing?
I don't know I don't remember if he mentioned keeping the thing or not. But Brad Pitt picked up one of the Mansonites and who was hitchhiking, gave her a ride to that ranch they lived on.
Yeah. And
at one earlier in the movie, which in the movie is a place where they filmed
Westerns.
In particular, the TV show that Rick Dalton was famous for being in, Bounty Law.
NBC.
Which is, I mean, if you've seen any of those old Western serials, it's all of those rolled into one, basically.
Pretty much.
And he, he knew the owner of the place, and so he's really creeped out. He realizes there's something funny going on, because I don't know how you could possibly encounter Manson's ilk and not realize there's something creepy going on.
Right, and so when they bust in, he recognizes them, though. He's like, oh, I know who you are. I remember you.
Yeah, he's high as a kite, though, because he had just smoked a cigarette dipped in acid.
Yeah, he had bought that off some hippie on the street earlier in the movie and had it, stashed away just for a special occasion. He decided that night was the night to smoke it.
Yep.
He had never tried it before, and he thought, what the hell?
Yeah, so... I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's, little things that get referenced to, later on, but nothing that was, real critical to the story. I mean, the flamethrower wasn't even a Chekhov's gun, because I'm pretty sure they didn't mention him keeping the thing.
Yeah. I don't remember if they did or not, but yeah, I mean... So when it goes into a shed and comes out with the flamethrower, it's not a surprise in where'd this flamethrower come from, because they showed him use it, and they flashed back to that scene a few times, and then showed him when he was talking about learning to use it and stuff. So you know that this flamethrower exists. So when he walks out, you're just like, oh,
He has the
the
flamethrower.
flamethrower that
Yeah.
he used in that movie. Okay. But it's not like, oh, where did this flamethrower come from?
Right. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I gotta say.
Yeah, that's the only like real spoiler. Yeah. So Sharon Tate lives, and she invites Leo up to the house after, because like they're all like the police and paramedics are there, and then this guy comes down from one of Sharon Tate's guests comes down. And he's like, "What happened?" He's like, "Oh, some damn hippies came in and tried to kill me," and like this whole movie just rags on hippies. By the way, like, what, you're kidding, hippies, really? And so like they invite him up to the house, and he had been hoping when Polanski moved in next door that maybe he could talk to Polanski and get some roles or something.
Yep.
And so we don't know if that worked out for him or not, but
yeah. So yeah.
One thing I really liked things that they did where they would like cut to this footage of him like them in like these TV shows, and so it would be the 3:4 aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Instead of being like this wide screen, it's the TV aspect ratio, and it's like all grainy, and that looks like it's footage taken right off TV from the 70s or 60s and earlier.
Well, and they
not the 70s yet.
They spliced Leonardo DiCaprio into The Great Escape.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty well done.
It was funny because there's this guy saying like, "Hey, I heard you auditioned for McQueen's role in The Great Escape, and you didn't get it." And he's like, No, that didn't happen.
No. He's like, no, I applied for the role, but no, there was like a small moment there where Steve McQueen, might have had a scheduling conflict, and so I was one of the ones being one of like 10 being considered to replace him.
Right, but
I
they keep intercutting like his audition where they like spliced him over like into the scene where McQueen's talking to the camp. The guy's like running the camp, and he's got the baseball glove, and talking about he's gonna see Berlin from the air and the ground and all this.
Yeah,
stuff,
he keeps cutting back to that while he's just denying it that he ever auditioned and stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
It was a pretty entertaining role, and like so when I saw that. Oh crap! What's his name? Who played Steve McQueen in this?
Oh, Dominic something, right? I can't remember his last name.
Damian Lewis.
Damian Lewis, yeah.
Yeah, when I saw that Damian Lewis was going to be in this playing Steve McQueen, like I didn't expect him to have a big role because he wasn't like on any of the posters.
Yeah.
But man, his role could have been literally anyone. All he did in the movie was explain how Sharon Tate left this twink of a man to marry Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
And imply that he at one time pursued Sharon Tate.
It's Jay Sebring is her ex.
Right.
And he's like hanging around her in the hopes that like she'll realize her mistake and come back to him. And how sad it is, but
it's the guy who played Speed Racer.
Yeah,
Emil Hirsch.
And he was wearing McQueen's watch.
Oh yeah,
in that movie.
Wow, that's gonna be an IMDb trivia, I bet.
Yeah. What's funny though is Damian Lewis, like he's got this quality to his face where you're like, yeah, I get. Like you put him up next to Steve McQueen, his face is a lot longer and narrower.
Yeah,
but he's got a quality like a squintiness and like a leatheriness to it or something that makes you go, yeah, okay, that's Steve McQueen when you see him on screen.
Yeah, once they get him on screen, like I said, and they got him in the wig and everything. And the scenes at night, it's at a party that they're all attending at the Playboy Mansion. And so yeah, I mean in that scene, like yeah, he looks like Steve McQueen. So
he also like got his voice down pretty well too, so.
Yep. So anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie.
It's a Quentin Tarantino movie. He's batting 1,000 at this point as far as making successful, entertaining movies.
Yeah.
Some better than others, but none of them are straight up bad movies. So, our next movie...
Not even, oh, why can't I think of his name suddenly? Name escapes me. Alien and Gladiator. Blade Runner.
Ridley
Scott.
Scott.
Yeah, not even Ridley Scott can really make that claim that he hasn't made any bad movie.
Yeah. But to be fair, Ridley Scott's made a lot more movies than Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
Like, Tarantino...
And
like,
of his good movies, I really like his good movies.
Yeah. Tarantino, at one point, said he was only making a certain number of movies.
He said
right?
10.
10?
Yeah, this is his 9th movie. He considers Kill Bill one movie.
Okay.
So this is his 9th movie, and he said he's going to stop after 10.
Think he'll actually do that?
No.
I mean, he's making too much freaking money every time one of these comes out.
Maybe he's only got 10 ideas.
Maybe. So, anyway, our next movie is Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, which looks like a really dumb action movie.
It'll probably be fun, though.
Yeah. What's funny is I'm more interested in that than I have been in just about any of the Fast and the Furious movies.
Well.
Yeah, and so then after that is Blinded by the Light a couple weeks after that.
Alrighty.
Which is getting really, really good reviews so far. And then not much, man. For like most of the rest of the month. Oh, they got rid of that duplicate Playmobil movie listing on IMDb. Thank goodness.
Guess somebody finally noticed.
I mean, we've only been talking about it for like 2 months or something like that. Yeah, so we're really winding down on the summer movies now, unfortunately. Hobbs and Shaw is pretty much, well, I guess Blinded by the Light's like the last of the summer movie season, at least for us. Because then we're not seeing anything else until Rambo
or Ad Astra.
Yeah, which they're the same week, so one of those will be the, well, obviously one of those before the other. And then yeah, it's just really thins out until we hit the holiday movie season, which is unfortunate. Bad timing, I think, for Regal to come out with their $18 a month unlimited movies plan. Because, man, if they'd have done that at the beginning of the summer, it would have saved me a lot of money.
I think that was the idea. They don't want to save people that much money.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, it's for a year, so next year. So, anyway, yeah, I think that about covers it for this edition of the Everything's Bad Newfangled Motion Picture Show. If any of our upcoming stuff sounds of interest to you, hit that bell icon thing that will alert you when those go up. Also, check out our other reviews. What was the last one we did, Nolan?
Was it The Art of Self-Defense?
Might have been. I don't know, man. It all blends together after a minute. So, or it was Lion King, wasn't it? I think it was Lion King.
Yeah, I think it was Lion King.
So check out our other reviews. Check out our upcoming reviews. And until next time, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Toodles.